Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews, and it's actually a pretty good sized week. Yeah, it's we've kind of had ups and downs. We've had some pretty light weeks, and we've had heavier weeks. And it's heavy but not too heavy. But there's a lot of new number ones this week. I was really surprised in some couple anthologies, and so let's just get right to it. First up, we have A Town Called Terror, number one, written by Steve Niles with artwork by Simon Kurdensky. So, I'm a really huge fan of Steve Niles' artwork, writing, sorry. Of course, he's probably really best known for 30 Days of Night. He also wrote October Fraction, that was a Netflix show. And he's really good at writing horror. I mean, he's written some great mainstream comics. He did a couple really good Batman series or miniseries, and he's back. It's been a little while since he's had a book. So what the basic premise of this is there's this town called Terror, and the actual name of the town is Terror. And so it starts off where there's like a morgue, and this guy is like literally putting this person back together like an action figure, like clicking their arms and legs in. And so then it cuts to this guy and his wife, and they're in their bedroom, and all of a sudden, like, these people break in and kidnap the husband and knock out the wife. So she doesn't know what's going on. We find out that the guy that they take, Henry West, so what it is his father is the one that they put back together. So so when they say, hey, your father wants to talk to you, and he goes, oh, well, you put him back together. So there's obviously something going on with this town that's like odd. So that's, and Henry doesn't want to go back home, because obviously it's like the son has left home for a reason. There's something about the town, the family, and all that kind of stuff that he did not like, and so that's why he left. But then his dad wants him back for some unknown reason at this point. So that's the basic premise, or that's the setup for the first issue. And even though it's kind of a light setup, there's definitely more questions than answers. I did really like the mood, and a lot of that it is not only the script, but Kurdensky's artwork really just oozes with just such great horror. And a lot of it there's not like, bloodletting, and it really captures the mood of Niles' script. And that's the one thing I really love about Steve Niles' work, is whenever he does a new series, it seems to take the time to find an artist that really fits the style of what he's writing for that particular story. And once again, he is just really picked somebody who just nails it. The artwork is just absolutely stunning. It's just really a gorgeous looking book, and so it adds really to the flavor and the mood while you're reading it. So you're just sitting there and reading it. It just oozes out at you, and it's really wonderful. I'm really, really, like I said, I'm impressed. But be forewarned. The first issue, there's not a lot of, there's a lot of setup there where you don't get any answers, but that's okay, because it works well for that type of first issue. So definitely check that out. I really did enjoy that. Next up, we have Image 30th Anniversary Anthology. So I'm going to go down the list of it. There's a lot of people that worked on this. So so we have Blizzard by Jeff Johns and Andrea Mutai. We have Old Dog The Drop by Declan Shavely. Then we have Gospel for a New Century written by Wyatt Kennedy with artwork by Luann Vecchio. Then we have Kaya, written and drawn by Wes Craig. Then we have Stupid Fresh Mess by Scotty Young. We have Hopeless by Mirka Andolfo. We have Red Stitches by Brandon Fletcher and Erica Henderson. Then we have Shift, written by Kyle Higgins with artwork by Daniel D. Niculo. Then we have Gianna, written by Patrick Kindelan with artwork by Maurizio Rezenwig. And then finally we have Billy Dogma, written by Dean Haspel. So there's a lot here, and I will say you're certainly get a lot of bang for your buck, because there's a ton of stories, and I think it's only $6, so it's a really good deal. So the first story is I'll try to go through these as quickly as possible. The Jeff Johns story is about a guy who. There was this guy who kidnapped his son and was convicted, or was going to go to trial, and then the father kills him, and then of course the father gets obviously arrested for manslaughter and stuff. So he ends up going to jail because he was getting revenge for what he did to his son. So that's the basic premise there. So when the dad's going to prison, he has this dream about the kid building a snowman. So I think there's a monster coming. But once again, a lot of these stories are pretty short, because I believe this is gonna be 12 issues. It says celebrates a year, so I would assume that some of these stories will last 12 issues. Some of them might not. And they might have different people come in throughout. But that's the first story. The next one. Old Dog, The Drop, is basically it's this guy who's like a bounty hunter, and he goes to find this object, and so it's this basic kind of search and rescue sort of thing, but there's obviously somebody that is watching him, that knows that he's doing this, so there's kind of like that little thing going on. So once again, a really interesting story. Gospel for a New Century is basically like, what if you went out and somewhat met, well, not necessarily the devil, but you met a demon, fell in love with that demon, and then kind of went along with what she wants to do. Like, not that she goes around killing people and stuff. It's just it's very interesting, and I think the story was really intriguing in that respect, because it's like it's not so much that the like the devil made you do it sort of thing, but it kind of is. But it's the girl falls in love with her, and they both fall in love with each other. It's really intriguing, and I really like the artwork by Vecchio on that. That was a really intriguing story with really nice artwork. Probably the biggest surprise was the Wes Craig Kaya, which is about, so you have this girl who survives in like the desert, and knows, she's kind of like not like an outcast, but an orphan, and knows how to survive. And then she's with this boy who's like the king's son type thing, and she's trying to teach him like how to survive. Like, you don't eat when you're hungry, you eat when you can. So it was really an intriguing story, and really a lot of fun. The Stupid Fresh Mess from Scotty Young is basically like his life of doing comics, but in like a strip, like Peanuts or Calvin and Hobbes, and it's just like really funny and everything. Then we have Hopeless by Andolfo. And so what it is this, it was like kind of this serial killer, and she's older now. Well, not it's almost like she was Jason in Friday the 13th, where she went around killing people, and now she can't do it, so she does it virtually, like a VR thing. And the VR is like a bad VR, like, well, they're not even trying to fight or anything, they just run away screaming. It's really bizarre and interesting. I really enjoyed that. Red Stitches is kind of like a murder mystery, and I'm a huge fan of Erica Henderson's artwork, and it was really a neat setup for that story. Really, probably one of the surprises was Shift, because that's written by Kyle Higgins. It's a side story to his Radiant Black series, which I was not particularly a fan of, but I have to admit I really kind of like this story. So I would say, even if you haven't read it, it worked. And then Gehenna is kind of like Atomic Blonde, except for she's got this boy, and she's keeping the guys that are trying to kill the boy away from him, and that's basically that story. And then the Billy Dogma is just a one page, so That one's really interesting because it's one page by Dean Haspel, and I'm like, I love Dean Haspel, but I'm not sure what to make of it because it's only one page. But like I said, you get a lot of content for $6. There wasn't any that I didn't really care for. I think they all had good stories and good artwork. So I think overall, I think it was definitely a good deal. I think the question is going to come down to is how all these stories are, how many are they going to go? Are they going to be like 12 issues or 3 issues? I don't know. So we'll kind of see. But like I said, for $6 I think it's a pretty good bargain, and it gives you a good swath of like creators, and that it might turn you on to books that they've done. So I think that's also a plus too, because anytime I think when you get an anthology and you get to visit new creators is always a plus. So I think it's worth checking out. And like I said, for $6, I think it's a good deal. Next up, we have Nightmare Country #1 from the Sandman universe, written by James Tynion IV, with artwork by Lissandro Estraharan and Yannick Paquette. So this is the story of Corinthian from The Dreaming. So he's from the Sandman. So it definitely ties into that. But so what he is, he's basically Mr. Nightmare. That's the best way to describe it. And so his eyes are actually teeth. And so when he kills people, he actually eats their eyeballs. So it's really bizarre and disturbing. And so what it is there's this girl, Flynn, who's having this nightmare about seeing not him, but seeing like a creature, but with mouths for eyes. And so the interesting thing I'll definitely give Tynion is that there is the artwork by Yannick Paquette is kind of like, if you've never read Sandman or haven't read Sandman in a long time, it's like a Reader's Digest version of somewhat his origin. It explains how he fits into the Sandman universe. And it was really a smart move. And I think having a different artist to, it's kind of a flashback sort of thing. So it actually makes sense. But the rest of the book is drawn by Esther Heron, which is absolutely gorgeous. It kind of has a painted look to it. I really love that. And it's just, so what it is Flynn is actually painting like her nightmares. And so it's like kind of disturbing, but, and her boyfriend is kind of having these nightmares too, or having different nightmares. So it'll be really interesting. And cause I know that, the one thing that's really intriguing about this book is Tynion said that he was going to do his own books and stuff like that. But when you get an offer to do, play in the Sandman sandbox, to use a pun there, you don't turn that down. So he was actually very excited to play in that sandbox. Yes, I'm still using those puns. And I really think it's good. He does horror quite well. Obviously, the nice house on the lake and something's killing the children. So this is definitely in his wheelhouse, and it's really just a really intriguing story. And like I said, the story's really good. It gets off to a great start in this first issue, and the artwork by both artists is really wonderful. So it's really worth checking out, especially if you're a Sandman fan. And if you've never read Sandman, that's just go buy it, and just it's really good. And this is but if you've never read Sandman, you could definitely read this. It stands on its own. Like I said, there is the kind of backstory, like previously, so it gets you up to speed on the character of Corinthians. So it's well worth checking out. I really enjoyed it. It was really one of the best books I read this week. Next up, we have Midnight Rose, written by Jim Starlin, with artwork by Nicole Jelnick. So what the basic premise of this story is think of like Poison Ivy, the character, because because Rose can actually manipulate plants in a way. And so what it is she was born, and when she was born, her mom, she ended up, killing her mom because of her like powers. And then her dad abandoned her. So she went through the system, And so she was in a foster home, and this one foster home, the kids, the teenage kids like beat her up and smacked her around. And so she discovers she has these powers and kills them and basically disappears because she pretends that she was killed in the fire too. So she now lives this life. So one of her things is she's trying to find somebody to love and live with, just like to have this normal life. And so, but she keeps coming across these guys who are just assholes. And so basically you see one encounter that she has, and she meets this guy who's all really nice and all great for 2 weeks, and then he's like starts cheating on her and stuff. So she ends up killing him, and what it is she bites him, and through that the plants come through him, and it basically turns him into a plant, and he's dead. So the police discover that these guys are missing, and they all have something in connection that they've met up with her. So that's the basic premise, and then eventually she does find a man to marry, and I don't want to go into any more, but that's the basic premise of the story. I think the concept's really good. Like I said, the story's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say it's super original. I think it's one of those, it's an okay story. The artwork was like kind of good, and I don't want to say bad, but there was definitely times where it was very stiff. And you definitely, after a while, you noticed it. And I think ultimately kind of where I struggle with this book is it's $9, and I think it's one of those, it's fine, but it's just not good enough, especially when you compare it to like the Image book. And I admit those are all short stories and there's a much wider breadth, but you're talking about a book that's about the same size for $6 compared to $9. And I just, like I said, it's okay. I just don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's terrible. It's just not worth $9. You have a decent story with okay art, and it just doesn't add up to particularly a good win this week. Next up, we have Flashpoint Beyond, number 0, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Eduardo Rizzo. So this is a setup for the Flashpoint Beyond, yet another Flashpoint, and of course it's written by Jeff Johns. So we'll see if this ends up being late per usual with most like Doomsday Clock, because Mr. Johns is sadly known now to not keep on his schedule, but we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed, maybe he's written it ahead of time. So what this is so you have Batman in an alternate timeline where Bruce Wayne was killed, and the father has become Batman. So what it is he knows that the timeline is screwed up because he remembers it, but nobody else seems to remember that the Flash screwed up the timeline when he went back to save his mom. So basically, this alternate universe or alternate timeline, so there's no, there is no Flash. Aquaman's attacking the world, and he apparently killed all the Amazons. So that's kind of what's going on. So Batman basically tries to, because Barry Allen's not the Flash, he tries to make him the Flash. He ends up he doesn't screw it up, it gets screwed up, and I don't want to really give too much more away, but that's kind of the basic setup, that he's trying to fix this timeline because he knows what has occurred in this timeline, but yet because there is no Flash, this timeline is now messed up, and it's even more messed up. So that's kind of the setup here. So it's interesting. I mean, it's once again, it's kind of a setup. I mean, I haven't read Flashpoint in like 800 years. So the question is, can you I think you can come into this pretty fresh. You just have to know that, Barry screwed up the timelines when he did the Flashpoint, to go save his mom. But I will say the one thing I really loved about this was Rizzo's artwork. I mean, he's just absolutely just amazing. He's a brilliant artist. He's not going to be the regular artist. He just did this like setup book. But the artwork's really stunning. The story was good. I think it's just going to be, where's he's going to take it. The best way to kind of describe Flashpoint, it's like, what if Flash changed the timeline, or what if Flash didn't change the timeline? What if Flash screwed up the timeline? So that's the basic premise here. It's just more of the same. So, but like I said, it was good. I don't think it was absolutely amazing, but we'll kind of see when we get the first issue, kind of see where it goes. Next up, we have Kaiju score, Steal from the Gods, #1. Written by James Patrick, with artwork by Rem Boo. So this follows the story of Michelle, who was in the first Kaiju miniseries, or Kaiju Score miniseries. So that the basic premise of that was, so they went to Florida to do a bank job because there are certain times of the year, certain times of the month that Kaijus come to town. So they clear out the city, and that way, he might only destroy buildings and stuff, but nobody theoretically dies. So they discovered that there'll be this bank. They can do a heist while everybody's gone, because there are a few people there, but not many. And so that's the basic setup. So Michelle was one of the ones that survived that. So now she kind of leads her own group of robbers, but she doesn't do anything with Kaijus because she was mentally all messed up with that first one. So what it is she does like smaller heists. So she ends up stealing, or doing a thing against a mob boss, and then he goes after her, and then there's another guy some rich guy wants to hire her, because basically the story goes that back in the old days there was Kaijus, and one of them ate like an Aztec temple, and he has a bunch of gold in him because he went into hibernation after he did that. So he's like, I want you to go to this place and go into the Kaiju and get these gold artifacts for me. That's the basic premise of the story. And so she initially turns it down, but when the mob boss finds her because of the heist at the beginning of the book, she's like, well, we need to get the hell out of town, so maybe we'll do this now. So that's the basic setup here. I actually really enjoyed Kaiju Score, the first miniseries, and I think you don't necessarily really have to read that. That I will definitely give that Patrick gives you enough information to kind of say, okay, this is what happened. Here's the basic premise of kind of what happened. So that's and I kind of explained the Florida story. So I think you can get going. And then Boo's artwork is actually really nice. I think if it would help if you did read the first miniseries. I don't think you have to, but I would say if you read this first issue and you like it, definitely go back, and because I know there's a trade of the first miniseries, and check it out. I enjoyed it. And there's no real Kaijus in this first issue, which is okay because it's a setup, but it's definitely kind of worth checking out. Like I said, I enjoyed the first one. That's why I definitely picked up the newest one. Next up, we have Wonder Woman 786, written by Michael W. Conrad and Becky Cloonan, with artwork by Rosie Campy and Becky Cloonan. So this is part 5 of the Trial of the Amazons, and we're finally at the 5th part. We're finally at the trial. But what it is the trial's getting ready to go. And then there's this cave-in where the 4 contestants get, they end up, there's these hidden tunnels under Themyscira that nobody knew about, but now they're in there. And so we're still kind of like, we're kind of at the 5th. I think there's 7 or 8 parts. I think it might be 7. And we're still just kind of getting where I like this story, but it just seems like it's kind of spinning its wheels a little bit. I think there's something about it where it's like good, but it's not overwhelming me. And I have been enjoying Wonder Woman, in Conrad and Cloonan's run, but it really just seems like this is treading. I don't know if the concept is like taking too long. I'm not quite sure. I don't hate it. I'm just not quite loving it. But I will say, and I really, this really hurts to say this, I really did not like the artwork in this issue. It was really just, it was just like, I don't know what happened. And once again, I really want to apologize because I understand it is not easy to draw a comic. It's very difficult. And I know that every artist always tries their best, but there is just something I just did not like about this artwork. And it was really just really disappointing, and really, like I said, I've struggled a little bit with this Trial of the Amazon stories, and unfortunately, the artwork in this issue did not help its case at all. Where I'm still gonna go. I'm gonna ride the story out, but honestly, it's really really sad because I really love Wonder Woman's character. But there's just something just quite off with this. Now they could pull, the story could pull together in the next three parts. I'm really hoping it does. 2 or 3 parts left, I think. I really hope so, because I do love Wonder Woman. I really want. I would like to have more people read Wonder Woman, but unfortunately, I can't really recommend this to be jumping in. Maybe after the trial, we'll kind of see where it goes. But right now, this book is sadly just struggling. It just hurts me to say that. Next up, we have Suicide Blaze number 2. Written by Simon Spurrier, with artwork by Aaron Campbell. So, as with most Black Label books, this is bi-monthly, so it's been 2 months since the first issue. So basically what it is there's this alien that is going around Earth and basically eating people's like spinal fluid or something like that. Once again, it's been a while, but basically he's running around killing people. And so obviously the Justice League has been trying to find this creature too, but Amanda Waller instead of just sending the regular Suicide Squad, she actually, what it is, they're able to take some, like, say, DNA from this alien, and they're creating new Suicide Squad members that are able to hopefully use the powers that they gain from this to destroy this creature or capture it or whatever. The only problem is by injecting them with this stuff, it's shortening their lifespan. It's like it turns their metabolism up to like 300 or whatever. And so they have powers, and they all have powers now, but it's going to burn out. So that's kind of the basic premise here. So the first book starts off, Superman finds the creature, and I will just say it doesn't look like it went well for him. Then the Justice League go after the creature. It doesn't look like it went well for them. So then the Suicide Squad goes after him. It doesn't kind of go entirely well, but they do. They needed a piece of DNA, whether it's a poop or pee or saliva or a hair. I won't spoil that. That's really pretty spectacular on that one. But so they can try to figure out how to kill this creature. So that's kind of what happens in this issue, in that every hero villain it seems in the DC universe, in this alternate DC universe, because it's a Black Label book, goes up against this thing and it doesn't go well. So that's what really Spur's story is actually, it's really quite intriguing. It's kind of like, it's really an effed up version of the Suicide Squad, in the fact that, yeah, I mean, most likely that some members will die, but it looks like he may just kill everybody at this point. There may not be anybody left in the DC universe with this creature. So I have to give him props for that, because he's really just going balls to the walls on this story. And Campbell's artwork's really, really nice. It has a nice gritty feel. And it's kind of, he's able to capture the really effed up stuff that Spurrier writes in the story. So I really enjoyed the first issue. I like the second issue, and it'll be very interesting to see how this all pans out, because like I said, right now it doesn't look like anybody's going to make it. So we'll be interesting to see if anybody actually survives this. Next up, we have Firepower number 19, written by Robert Kirkman and with artwork by Chris Samnee. Now, this came out last week. It was in my book, so I forgot to get it. So, hey, we're reviewing it this week. Because why? Because I love this book. First of all, once again, Chris Samnee could draw the phone book, and I'd be there all over it. I've said this many times before. So this issue is coming off a bit of a hiatus, And once again, don't start reading it from here. You're going to be totally lost. But for people that have hung in like me, this issue, so the last issue had a big cliffhanger of an act. So they have been in the monastery. They've been keeping this entity, like the evil bad guy, behind, a sealed door. Well, guess what? He got out and he's a big freaking dragon. And so that doesn't look good for the family. And so that's basically kind of story. I don't want to really give anything away, because at this point, if you're a new reader, you really need to catch up. But I really still love this book, and it's just it's one of those books, and it's tough when books go on hiatus, but boy, when it comes back, it's just like, ooh, happy day. And what, like I said, I like Robert Kirkman. I'm not his hugest fan, but I think this is probably one of the best things he's quite honestly written. I really enjoy this book. And I think a lot of it has to do not only because you have Sam Neill's gorgeous artwork in this book, but I think the collaboration of the two is really what is making this book so wonderful. And it's one of those rare things where you really have you can see the collaboration between the writer and the artist, where they're just really firing all cylinders and just really working together quite well. And once again, if you haven't read Firepower, I really recommend this book. I really enjoy this, and it's you really need to catch up. Next up, we have Batman 89 number 5, written by Sam Hamm and with artwork by Joe Quinones. So once again, another book. This book is really late because it started around the same time as Superman 78. And Superman 78's been finished for like months now. So the fact is, I don't know what's going on with this. But so this one, so this takes place in the Batman 89. So Michael Keaton's Batman. So I will give you a bit of a recap. So we have Billy D. Williams is Two-Face. Barbara Gordon is his wife. You have, Michael Keaton Batman. You have what would have been Marlon Wayans playing Robin. And you have the other cast members from the original Tim Burton Batman film. But you also, he has brought in Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman into the fray. And so at this point, Harvey Dent is obviously turned into Two-Face and fallen off the wagon. And he's doing a robbery. He's kidnapped Commissioner Gordon, and Barbara Gordon's actually a police officer, and so she tries to arrest him, and then Catwoman comes in. So there's a lot going on. It's a lot of fun. If you're a fan of Batman, the Tim Burton Batmans, Sam Hamm wrote the script for the first movie. And it's just fun. It's nostalgia infused. Like I said, it's a lot like Superman 78. It's just fun. And Hamm's writing, the story's really intriguing, how he's mixing like what could have happened had Billy D. Williams played Two-Face and stuff like that. I love that. Because I think Billy D. would have made a great Two-Face. I think it's interesting with bringing the Marlon Wayans Robin into the story. I like how he's mixing the stuff from the second film in with obviously Catwoman. So he's just having a really fun time, playing in that giant Tim Burton sandbox of those two films. And it really is, it's just a lot of fun. And I really love Quinones' artwork. He does a great job of capturing the visual likeness of the actors when it's appropriate. And overall, it's just a really good looking book, and I'm really enjoying it. It's just a lot of fun. Next up, we have Batgirls number 5, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad, with artwork by George Corona. So we're at the, kind of I think it looks like this maybe is the first story arc is going to be 6 issues. And so we're kind of like coming up to, the gang that was going after the Batgirls, they finally they finally comes to a head on that, and Barbara comes in as Batgirl, which has really been a lot of fun because she's really been Barbara's been in the background, so that's kind of good. And so now we're starting to see all the pieces of puzzle are starting to fall into place of like not only that gang, but the main guy, the main Batman villain or the Batgirls villain that's kind of really running this. And then it looks like Barbara has gotten too close to the guy who is the villain. She doesn't know he's the villain. And so that's kind of really, this issue is kind of just a part of the whole story. So once again, not a good jumping in point. You really need to have been reading the book. But I'm really enjoying it. I really have to give Clunan and Conrad, they're really having a lot of fun with this book. And I think this one's definitely a little more action-oriented, not as much heavy character study as the first I'd say first 3-4 issues have been, but it's, once again, this is just the part of the first storyline. So once again, it's still working. And of course, really the big draw is Corona's artwork, which is really just gorgeous. I love how he draws Batgirl, and it just looks really wonderful, and it's just a fun book. And I think that's what's kind of been missing in a lot of these Batman kind of universe books, where there's just the Clunan and Conrad have, it's fun. It's not, it's got a good story and everything, but it's not just like, just another Batman book. And that's what I really love about it. And then once again, you have really a good story with gorgeous artwork. I'm really enjoying it. The book's a lot of fun. And finally this week, we have Batman Urban Legends number 14. So these are the stories that are in here this month. We have part 4 of I think it's part 4. Let me look. Yeah, we're part 4. Batman Zatanna by Vita Ilea, with artwork by Nikola Shizimsky. Then we have Batman in the Question, written by Ryan Cody, with artwork by with pencils by Giuseppe Camicoli and inks by Cam Smith. Then we have a Birds of Prey story, written by Chi Grayson, with artwork by Serge Acuna. And then finally, we have Ace the Bat Hound, written by Mark Russell, with artwork by Carl Mosteret. So once again, the reason I have been buying this book is obviously for the Ace the Bat Hound, because once again, Mark Russell can write the phone book and I would buy it. But we'll start off. We'll talk about it because that's the last. So this one has the Batman Zatanna these are much bigger stories. I'd say the Birds of Prey is probably the shortest of them. So Batman Zatanna by Ilea, I've really I really want to like this. I mean, it started off really strong, and the first chapter was really great, and then it seems like, for me, it feels like it's kind of been dragged out a little bit. It's not that it's bad. I like a lot of the concepts. It just seems like it's kind of taking along. It's just not moving along. I think that it's, once again, I think the concept's good. I think the pacing is where I'm struggling with this. And it's not that it's like I'm bored while I'm reading it or it's terrible. It's just, I think it's like it's an idea that maybe got stretched out a little too far. But I will say, Shabinsky's artwork is really neat. I love the interaction between Zatanna and Batman and John Constantine. He's thrown in the mix. And then we saw a little bit of Dr. Fate, then of course in a flashback. So we'll kind of see if he has something to do with this. But like I said, it's kind of losing me. I'm like, I like it. I just want to like it more. It just seems like its pacing is kind of a bit off. The Batman in Question, actually, it's very interesting because it's actually the Vic Sage Question, not the current one. So it's set in the past, and it's kind of like, in a way, it's like after the Question and Batman have met, because they met in the 1986 Question, which this refers to, but so I think the thing is that the story is just kind of basic. It's kind of like the Question comes in, he's trying to figure out, so somebody has broken into this Wayne Tech facility, and so Batman says, hey, well, why don't you go in this way and I'll go up and get into the computer system. It's kind of like, it's kind of an okay story. I think it just never quite like it never quite took off. Like, you know, I'm reading it, it's like, oh, this is nice, and I love the question, but yeah, it's nice. It didn't really do anything for me. I will say, Kamikoli's artwork is nice, but ultimately it just was kind of okay. I just felt it just didn't quite elevate to really get too excited about. The Birds of Prey is it's the first part of a new storyline. I think it's gonna be 3 parts. Let's see, yeah, 3 parts on that one, and gets off. So it's got Katana. It's got a couple of. It's got not the, you know, not Harley Quinn, not Black Canary. It's more of like the newer Birds of Prey characters, and Grayson's stories is interesting. I think it was like interesting enough. Like, okay, I will see how it goes in the next 3 parts. But I think it's one of those, it didn't necessarily grab me, but I think it's got some good ideas. So we'll kind of see, because, you know, being a first part of the story, it's a little bit of a setup. Akuna's artwork's nice. There's some really great dream you know, kind of dream visual sequences, that, he does, and it's really interesting. We'll kind of see where it goes, but once again, we'll get to the main reason why I still continue to buy this book. I don't care about any of the other stories. If they're good, great. If they're bad, well, okay, whatever. It's the Ace the Bat Hound by Mark Russell and Mosteret. So we still have the Ace is leading the escapee animals. And then we find out that some of them actually kind of have special powers. I wouldn't say that they're super pet powers, but they definitely have, shall we say, the turtle has quite an interesting special power. And it was really, really spectacular to see that. And so Batman's still kidnapped. He's going to be auctioned off. So that part of the story, we have kind of the 2 separate storylines within the story. And once again, Russell handles everything really well. The really, once again, the Mosteret's artwork is just absolutely gorgeous, and honestly, I love the fact that really the main part of the story is Ace the Bat Hound, and that the Batman story is kind of like a secondary in some respects. I mean, he has to kind of be there, but I love the fact that he's literally just writing like a Super Pets, you know, or like story, and I love that Russell's doing that, but he's also, it's not like a cutesy sort of thing. I love the fact, and you know, we learned the backstory of the bear in this issue. It's just really wonderful, and it's just really, like I said, I really love Mark Russell's writing, and he's just really nailing it on this, and even though I wasn't overwhelmed by the other stories, to me, it's so worth it just for that story alone. Like I said, none of the other were horrible clunkers. They're just like, okay. That's going to do it this week. Quite a bit. And like, you know, we had a couple of anthologies, so that really, you know, that took a lot of time there, especially that Image one. But overall, I don't think there was anything that was horrible this week. There were a couple that were, I think, really just the best way to say is disappointing. So, they can't all be winners, but, you know, I bless people who do comics that they try. They're always, at least I'd rather have people try and fail than to just kind of shovel like the same stuff that we keep seeing. So that's going to do it. Public service announcement. As always, I get all of my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan runs a great store. Annie and Eduardo, great. Wendy helps out now. She's been helping out a lot, pricing back issues. Of course, Derek Easley does all the video shows, the unboxing show on Tuesday, runs a lot of their social media. It's a great little comic store, and like I said, I've always said support your local comic shop. If you live in the LA area, there is Pulp Fiction Culver City. Same name, different city, but different owners. Chris owns that store, has a great team running that store. If you live in the LA area, I recommend it. Both stores offer pull service discounts. You know, if you pre-order, like I pre-order my books and they're sitting there waiting for me when I pick them up on Wednesday. They also offer trades and hardcovers at 30% off every day on their mainline stuff. So they're great stores, and like I said, it's support your local comic shop. It's really, really important. And as always, we end the show on please be kind. Kindness is really, I think, so important now. For it makes you feel good, can make other people feel good. And it's just it's really a great thing that you can do for yourself and for others. And being kind, it would make the world a lot better if we were all much more kinder. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please share this video on social media. And as always, comments and feedback is appreciated. And like I said, please take care of yourselves out there and be kind. And this is Steven from Pop Culture Maven signing out. We'll see you again next week with more comic reviews. Take care. Bye-bye.